if you're not working on yourself, you're just stagnant. To kind of sit and reflect and realize, like, okay, what's a change that I notice about myself, or a change that I notice that I've done, like that has really catapulted me to the next step or next level, whichever you want to call it, I think is important to realize.
Hey there, this is Unburdened by Hope, the podcast that helps you harness your possibility and fuel your purpose. I'm your host, Erin Cummings. Here we're breaking free from the chains of hope and unlocking the power of inspiration within. Get ready to ignite your soul because we're diving deep into the art of letting go, embracing the unknown, and creating a life unburdened by the limitations of hope. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to finding purpose, fueling our passions, and crafting a vibrant existence that sets our hearts on fire. So, are you ready to burn down what's no longer serving you and step into a life driven by possibility? Let's dive in, my friends, and unleash our boundless potential.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unburdened by Hope, a podcast by Erin Cummings. Thanks for joining me. We are now in the second week of December. I cannot believe how fast it's going. And also, it's just how calendars work. I always have to remember to tell myself that every time I say that out loud. I don't know how it's been for you. It's been very busy. Sick kids, lots of holiday parties, like things going on, trying to do end of year stuff for the studio, beginning of year stuff for the studio. And I'm finishing up my graduate program. I'm not finishing it up. I'm finishing up my semester for the graduate program. And then yeah, it's been a whole thing. I am happy to announce that I got an A in my entrepreneurship class. I've told everyone, obviously as a joke, I told everyone, I was like, if I don't get an A in entrepreneurship, then I am totally dropping out of this Masters of Entrepreneurship program, because clearly it's not meant to be. But it seems like it's meant to be. I did get an A. I've enrolled for next year, once again, part-time. I'm excited. I feel like I've learned so much, and there's definitely a lot of really good stuff that I have taken out of the program so far. So I'm super excited. But yeah, this will be the last episode of 2023, and then I'm going to take a little podcast break while I'm taking a school break, just to give myself some space, clear my head, and we'll start this bad boy back up next year. Can't you guys? I mean, listen, the next year joke, everyone hates it and it's fine. But I think also secretly everyone loves it. Like, I don't like it when people say it to me, but I love saying it to other people. And you're like, next year we're going to do that. And it's like in 4 days, be prepared for me to do that to you IRL if you're around me, if that's the case. Oh, also, if you're watching this, I have not moved the nutcrackers. I even went as far as oh my God, I have it on. I have on a ballet sweatshirt. So you know what? I just said fuck it, and I leaned all the way in, and this is you just have to deal with the quirk of the nutcracker situation. So you know what? You're welcome. And maybe you can put this bag on your computer and you can just be amazed at these beautiful characters behind me. Okay, so before we get started, this episode, we're all about reflective questions. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 questions that I'm going to give you to reflect upon your year. I'll talk about mine, and then we'll kind of go from there. I do want to tell you, oh my God, I realized this today. I went and had lunch with a really good friend that I haven't seen in a really long time. And it was one of those days where her and I haven't seen each other in forever. And we were at yoga, and then I had a dentist appointment. And then she's like, you know what? I don't have to be at work until whatever time. Let's just go to lunch. And I was like, I could not believe that, like, the clouds opened up. It's a beautiful day. Her and I were able to, like, she's got a crazy schedule. I have a crazy schedule. The fact that we could have lunch together, I felt like was just the best way to, like, kick things off for reflection for this year and this month. So I thought, you know what, when I got home, I was like, you know what, we should do these questions and just start this. because I was super grateful. So also, while I was at lunch, what I realized, this is a bonus question for you. So we haven't really started yet, but I realized a quirk. I've realized a lot of quirks this year, but the one quirk I realized that I'm going to share, and this is if you listen to the podcast quirk, this is not going to be shared on any other social media, in person, whatever. This is purely podcast secret content. That's not content, secret share. That I realized today when I went to the bathroom. I know, weird turn of events. I switched the toilet paper rolls. I'm not kidding. So if you don't have your toilet paper roll in a way in which I like, I will move it. I will switch it. And I did it today when I was like in the bathroom. I was like, look over to go reach for toilet paper. And I'm like, they're both facing different, there's two of them, both facing different directions. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to help you out. So I know in some cases I'm not actually helping you out. I'm just doing it for the sole purpose of myself. But I had this moment today where I was like, I cannot believe I like do this. This is so honestly rude. And because I did it like without thinking. So it's clearly a habitual, which means I do it all the time. And I know for sure I've done it at other people's houses. So like, I'm sorry and I'm not. Like, I feel like I could be doing worse things. I'm a toilet paper flipper. I don't even know if there's a word or a category or something. But honestly, I was shocked at my behavior. And also I think it's hysterical at the same time. So yeah, I realized today, I wonder how many times throughout the year I've done that to any other business, my own home, or someone else's home. So yeah, who knew? If you have a quirk like this, I need to know immediately. So you need to DM me on Instagram or send me an email. But I'm telling you right now, this is a if you know situation. So thank you, podcast listeners. I want to just say I really appreciate you, and I shared with you the toilet paper secret. I was seriously like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. And then I was like, well, you know what? You're welcome. Anyway, so I want to get into I'm going to hold it up. You can't see it if you're just listening to this, but if you're watching it on YouTube, you're looking at a visual of my beautiful book. I wrote a book and it came out this year. It launched in February. It honestly feels like 100 years ago, but it was such an incredible experience. Totally different than I ever had it pictured in my mind of how writing a book, launching a book, marketing a book, all the business side things of the book was very different than I expected. But it has been really cool to be part of the process and to have something like this published. And it really challenged me this year. And I have a few questions from the book that we'll kind of discuss. So in the book, if you have the book, it is the very last part of the book when you're reflecting on your goal that you set within the Possibility Project. And so some of those questions that we're discussing today are in fact like part of the book and the journal as part of your vision and goals. But I also think they're relevant to your year or your month, however you're choosing to reflect in this time period. I love to reflect on my year. I think it's so important to, I think we talked about last week, it's like getting present to what's working and not working. And I think that if you don't know if something's broken, you can't fix it. And so the only real way to realize if something's not working or some action needs to take place is to get present and reflect. And that is a big part of this book, the Possibility Project. And it's something that I have done for a really long time. I actually, before I was recording this podcast, I went back through all of my notebooks, oh my God, I forgot what they're called, moleskins. I have written in a moleskin literally every year for the past God, it's got to be like 8 or 9 years. And this year was the first year that I didn't complete one. I'm shocked. I've gone digital, not journaling digital, but like with having my own book to write in and all that kind of stuff. It's funny, my moleskin still lives in my backpack, but I didn't finish it this year. And so it feels very weird to have that not happen after I've done it every year for the past quite a while. It's kind of like my brain book where I keep everything. And so the fact that I don't have one right now is very interesting to me. But yeah, so some of the questions that I'm going to go over with you are from the Possibility Project. Some are from questions that are from my other journals or ones that I normally kind of ask myself all the time as I'm reflecting on months and on years. So the first question that if you're, maybe you can like write these down or make a note or whatever. But the first question that you'll want to ask yourself is, what am I most proud of this year? And I think, obviously there's lots of things that I'm sure you can think of. But I always just kind of write down what immediately comes to my mind. There's no need to like sit here for forever to really think and reflect. Usually I always like to think of it as just whatever's at the top of the frame of your mind is probably what's not most valid, but like what's most present and what's most there for you. Like, I know a lot of shit has happened this year, just not only like probably for you, but like worldwide. There's lots of news, there's lots of chaos, there's lots of drama. There's lots of like, not just like news and drama and chaos and like hurt. There's also lots of like pop culture and there's lots of stuff like that. And what I think is really interesting in doing these exercises is most likely you will remember like kind of within the past 3 months or something. So when you're looking at this, it's nice to think of the first thing that comes to mind, but it might kind of kickstart like older memories for you from throughout the year. So just know that could happen. And you can always do this again. Like, this doesn't have to be the only time that you do this. But first question, what am I most proud of this year? For me, it was definitely launching the book. And with the book launch came the 2 speaking engagements. What I'm really proud of myself for is the fact that I had a lot of imposter syndrome when it came to the book launch and being an author and what that means and what that's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to look like. And, like, do I write another book? And I think like that was a lot of the like kind of stuff that came with writing the book. But what I'm really proud of is the fact that like I did it start to finish. I found a publisher, we launched it. It's I think it's a beautiful book. I think it's very helpful. I hope to have helped a lot of people with all of it. I mean, I know I did just from like the people that talked to me about it, but I'm really proud of the work that I put out. I find it to be like it was a really intense experience. And it's something that I will never forget. And it's something that also challenged me along the way. But yeah, like I said, I never considered myself a writer, even though I've been blogging and like writing studio emails and all that kind of stuff. I've done that for such a long time, but I never in 100 million years like equated that to being an actual published author or a writer. And so it's really cool that like that almost accidentally happened. And I think I am very, very proud of myself for that. Number 2, what is a challenge that I overcame? So what's the challenge that you overcame? This year, I really struggled with relationships, and not like with my husband and myself, but just like friends and boundaries and employee boundaries and client, it's like all of that kind of stuff. Like I really had a challenge with like, what do I want to get out of this relationship? How is this relationship working for me? If it's not working for me and I want it to, what if I'm it's working, but I don't want it to be working. You know what I mean? It was kind of like those kind of things. And kind of the people like who do I want to move on my rings? Like that was a huge challenge for me this year. But the challenge that I overcame in all of that, I think, is creating those boundaries and being way more upfront and honest and in my expectations of others and just what I ask of people. Like I'm a lot more, there are some things I'm still like, yeah, sure, whatever. But then there's other things where I am like doing so much better about like holding people accountable to what they say or do. Um, and I'm still working on like the bitchy delivery, and like having some candor and like making sure that I'm like clear and like being clear is kind. But I'm clear without being bitchy behind it and trying not to let the emotion get in the way first, but the facts and the what do I need from you kind of thing. So I'm really proud of myself. My therapist says I've been working really hard. I'll take her word for it. But yeah, I thought that was, I didn't expect that to come up this year at all, honestly. And I think now, with a few things that had just kind of happened, like friendship wise, there's some stuff that I just moving into new friendships don't want to repeat, and there's some stuff moving into old, like moving out of old friendships that I also am like, okay, things need to change. And so it's been nice to have better boundaries and kind of rules around friendship relationships and stuff that I've put into place. So that was really awesome. What do I want to remember? Oh my God, so much. The two big things, we were very lucky and very privileged to have taken 2 vacations this summer, 2 big family vacations. We went to Hawaii, and then we took one set of parents to Hawaii, and then we took my dad to, or Kyle's parents, we took to Hawaii, and we took my dad to London, and we did like a day trip to Paris. And those 2 trips, I think, are just like, first of all, they're trips of a lifetime, but, being that there's been just so much happen over the past couple years with health and just so much stuff that has come up. It was, I think, like for our kids, those are like really core memories. And there are also places that like, we've been to London before, and it was just like places that we've loved to visit. And the London trip was really cool. My dad turned 70 this year, and his dad actually grew up in London. And so we did like a family history trip while we were there. Like that's really what that trip was about. And so what was so crazy and what like I have a hard time kind of wrapping my brain around, but like I saw it happen was like my dad, who's 70, met 2 of his cousins for the first time ever in his life. And I think that that was like really, I mean, I just think that's the coolest thing. And I'm so lucky to be able to have like provided that experience for our parents. And same thing with Kyle's parents. It's so cool to like have them be part of this like vacation time and experience with our kids. And I think too, like our kids will remember these trips, especially because they're older now, but they'll remember this time that they had with their grandparents. And I think it's cool because a lot of us have memories like that, and it's cool to know that like it was a really great trip and it was a core memory. There is an episode on the podcast where my son left his iPad in the rental car. That was in Hawaii. But yeah, it was there's always some bumps with vacations, but yeah, I mean, what I really want to remember is like those 2 key trips were just like such an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful to have been able to share them with my husband and my kids and our parents, and really creating these core memories for ourselves and our kids and even them. I mean, no one wants to stop creating core memories once you get older, and so I think it's like important to continue to do things if you can. The next question is, what is a change I noticed about myself? I think this is such an important question. If you are someone, which I'm sure you are because you're listening to this podcast, you've probably known about my book, or about the yoga studio, you're clearly in the work of working on yourself. If you're not noticing changes about yourself, you're not growing. or you're not paying attention. And I feel like those are two big things that are like pretty problematic in my book. I don't really like being around people that aren't working on themselves, or they're not like kind of vision or goals people, because some people don't like setting goals. They like setting intentions, which is also, I mean, I like both. And I think you can be a one or the other or a both kind of person. But what I do think is like, if you're not working on yourself, then it's like, you're just stagnant. And to kind of sit and reflect and realize, like, okay, what's a change that I notice about myself, or a change that I notice that I've done, like that has really catapulted me to the next step or next level, whichever you want to call it, I think is important to realize. And for me, it's been all about setting boundaries, asking for help, being more clear in my communication with others. I think that changes that you notice is because you're practicing them, because there's a challenge. And so it's like, if you're training every day for the sprint, eventually you'll hit the sprint and then you kind of move to the next level. So now, I haven't mastered boundaries, but I have this really pessimistic slash optimistic slash realistic saying that some people really like and some people don't. But it is what it is. It's solutions create new problems. And so you have to decide, is this new problem something I'm willing to work on and solve? Or am I just done at this old problem? Like, am I ready just to be done and figure out a different solution, right? So if you have solved a problem, you had a challenge, you overcame it, you've solved a problem, there's now in your realm a new problem that will be required to be solved. And so once you've made the change, it's like, okay, so now I've done a lot of boundary work and really worked on my boundaries with others and even myself. It's like, okay, now we take a pause. What's the change I notice? The boundaries. What's even within that boundary change? Like, okay, well, now I have like been a lot more clear in my friendship communications, and have just kind of said how I felt, or it's like, hey, this hurt my feelings, or whatever, instead of like holding on to it. It's like being a little more direct. And I feel like it's really worked out. Or I've put myself, not with everyone. I mean, at school pickup and drop off, I am a sunglasses on, no one talk to me kind of person. But outside of that, there are new friendships and relationships that I am working on. And I have noticed a difference in my approach to those as well. Last question. And this can, once again, you can answer it as like vision and goals, intention. Maybe there's something you're looking forward to. Maybe you have something coming up. But the last question, and I love to end on this one, is what's next for me? And I think that can be anything. You can make it as big or as small as you want it to be. But it's really just a launching point. It is a point to kind of relight the spark. So what I like about this list is it's just like the book, and it's got this like fire concept. And we did it at the yoga studio, and I've really pulled it into my everyday life. And I might have this like awesome saying, I was like, burn it down. But you've lit the fire. Like, what am I most proud of? What's something you've overcame? You kind of like, you're stoking it. It's really going with what you want to remember. And then you kind of are starting to put it back out with like, what's a change I've noticed? Like, we're taking it back down. And then like, what's next for me? You're just like relighting a spark in a new spot. And I think that's a really cool concept to think about and to realize is like, we light all these little fires all around us. And so you're kind of realizing, while you're like, what am I putting out? What am I restarting? What do I have under my control? What fire is out of control? And, I think like what's next for me is like, well, you can kind of see this in a lot of different ways. You can start a new fire somewhere, or you can look over and manage or move or do whatever with one of the other ones that you have going on. But I think it's important to kind of sit, and after you reflect, it's like, okay, now what? And that might mean you take a vacation. What's next for you might mean, you're going to have the intention of like family time and you spend more quality time with your family, or maybe have a big work project coming up where you're like, I'm really going to focus on work, or maybe you're going to focus on getting a new job or your relationship with your partner. It could really be anything. What's next for me is I'm working on this graduate program. I have some big decisions to make coming up. And I think that's been my big focus, or it is truly the what's next for me, where I've started my goals and stuff for the next 5 years. And I'm really working backwards on all of those. And I'm getting to a point where it's like a fork in the road point where it's like, okay, what's next for me is I have to make this really big decision. And I'm working on how I'm going to make it. And when I figure that out, I'll let you know. Because some of you, that was the next thing you're going to ask me. You're going to be like, well, how do I make this big decision? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Once I do, I'll let you know. But I think that's the thing, is like, what's next for me is I know I have to make a really big decision. And so what's next for me is making sure I'm taking care of myself, because this shit stresses me out. I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing what can I actually control, focusing on that part. I'm making sure I'm spending time with my family. My family does really refuel me. We love to travel. I'm also trying to make sure, like, in the traveling, it doesn't feel like I'm running away, because I think I get caught up in that a lot, where it's like you can kind of put everything on pause when you travel, but then you get back and that pile of shit is still there. It's like, fuck, no one cleaned this up while I was gone. It's like, well, no, that was my job. It's my pile of shit, right? So it's like, when I'm doing all of that, like making sure I'm traveling with an intention of like filling up with family time or partner time with my husband. And it's not like filling up by running away from my problems. I feel like it's such a fine line, and making sure that that I'm staying on the side that I want to be on, and not, where I easily slip off into the running away to travel abyss. I think that's really important. So what's next for me is making sure that I'm taking small steps. And because I have a really big habit of taking large leaps. I'm a large leap girl. So it's like, once I start, I'm all in, making sure my what's next is slowing down and taking small steps, small actions is what I'm really focused on right now, instead of the big things. And I think I think that can be really important. So I will reread you these 6 questions. What am I most proud of? What was the challenge I overcame? What do I want to remember? What is a change I noticed about myself? And what's next for me? If you have an answer that you want to share, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear what you're working on, what your goals are for 2024. Once we start season 2 in 2024, I have like a word of the year. And so we'll kick things off with that. But until then, I hope you have an amazing rest of your holiday season, time with family, time with friends. Make sure you fill your cup. If you have nowhere to go, or you have no family or friends to be with, the yoga studio is always open and available to at least come take a class. I think that that's so important. If you have nowhere to go, like, at least go do something where there's other people there, even if you go to like a coffee shop or fuck a bar, you know what I mean? Like, go and make sure you're not like staying lonely just to be lonely. I think that's another thing that's super important. So I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to hear how your year was and what you're working on in 2024 and what you're looking forward to in the year ahead. Stay courageous, capable, and strong. Stay safe over the holidays, and I will chat with you next year. Oh, yes, I did it. Thank God. Boom. Ending on a joke. All right. Catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Unburdened by Hope. Go to your favorite podcast app, hit that subscribe button, and leave us a review. If you've got something out of our show, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your favorite takeaway or any questions you may have to info@erincummings.com. You may even just hear the answer in a future episode. Remember, you are courageous, you are capable, you are strong. It's up to you to create what's possible.